Alright, Brush Monkeys, we are back and we are starting in on the Nolzur's Marvelous Miniatures Gelatinous Cube from WizKids. And it comes in 2 parts. It actually comes in 3 parts. There's a black plastic base that goes under this too. I didn't like how that looked, so I didn't bother with it. But you got this clear plastic cube on the outside. Then you got this clear plastic piece on the inside that's got all kinds of skeleton parts and shields and swords and weapons and stuff like that stuck in it. And this fits up inside the cube like that. And you can kind of see how all that stuff's inside there. It comes transparent. This is a little bit foggy because the prerequisite to the steps that I'm about to do today are, in order to get, I'm going to paint it with inks through an airbrush. And in order to do that, to get those inks to stick, you have to spray it down with matte sealant, which I've done. And you can see there's a couple little places where it's already got some green on there. That's because I tried to do that without sealing with the matte sealant. The way I found out about the matte sealant was I did this shark some time ago. And I painted up the shark, and then I matte sealed them. And then I painted the foam from the ocean and the blue of the water around them. I painted all that up with inks after I had matte sealed the shark. And I didn't realize that the matte seal is what was making the ink stick to the plastic, that it wouldn't stick without the matte seal, until I went to go paint this inside part and realized that you know, where I'd painted that green in there, it just kind of pooled up and didn't stick. It was causing all kinds of problems. So I looked it up online, found out you have to spray it with matte sealant first. So that's what we're doing. Now we're going with the green ink. The green ink I bought, the Forge World De La Rowney, not Forge World, De La Rowney FW ink, is semi-opaque, so I'm not sure it's going to work for this. But I have some old Citadel color ink from their Expert Paint set, and then a later version of the Expert Paint set that I bought had green ink in it as well, but this was listed as ink wash or orc flesh wash. So I'm not sure it's the same thing. I'm not sure how that's going to work one way or the other. I've got a little more confidence in the actual green ink, so I'm going to use that for the outside, and I'm going to use this stuff for the inside. I also have some Weight Watcher green glaze that I'm going to put on there. And ideally, all I should do is just spray the inside of this, spray the outside of this, then spray the inside of the cube, spray the outside of the cube, and then I'm going to glaze the outside of the cube. And then the rest of the shields and skeletons and armor and whatnot in this is going to be coated over with the armor is going to be done with the Gray Seer. The bones are going to be done with Wraithbone base paint, and then those will be painted with contrast paints and a little bit of Riser Rust and Typhus Corrosion on the armor to make it look all rusty and that kind of thing. But a lot of that's going to be kind of hard to see through the green, so this is going to be a really quick and easy video. Not anticipating this being a whole lot of problems with this. It's just going to be spraying the inside, spraying the outside, call it done. Paint the little bits, put the whole thing together. So we're going to start with spraying this inside part. There we go. And ideally, because I'm painting it with these, spraying it with the ink through the airbrush, I should be able to maintain the transparency of the plastic. Oh wow, that really looks good. Holy shit. Sorry. I've never actually done this before. So I've painted plastics with ink before, and they came out looking pretty good. But wow, that really looks nice. Look at that. Okay, that is with the ink wash, green ink wash from the later Citadel things. I might just stick to this all the way through, to be honest with you. I'm not seeing a whole lot of reason to change this up. The tricky part of this is going to be getting up inside the cube in the corners. And of course, you get it on too thick and it runs, which is kind of fitting for the look of the cube. Trying to get the corners here. There we go. Alright, so that looks pretty good for the inside. Now for the outside of this thing, it's going to be a little easier because I'm not going to need to hold it. I can put it on the turntable here and just... outside layer. Is that 4 sides? I don't know if that actually did 4 sides or not. There we go. That's 4. We'll give this one another coat. And there we go. We're going to go ahead and call that done for right now. Blow off the rest of this ink in here. Alright, and just like that, we're done with the first part of this. I'm going to go ahead and pause here, give those a chance to dry, clean out my airbrush, and then we'll come back and do the base coating on the skeletons and armor and what have you. Alright? See you soon. Alright, I'm back, and as you can see, the ink looks really good on that cube. Makes it look really kind of gross, but you can still see through it. See my finger wiggling in there. And I've got all these parts, bones and the swords, dagger, there's an axe and a shield on there. All done up with the contrast bases. Wraith bone for the bones and Gray Seer for everything else. And I did the hilt of the little dagger there and the hilt and pommel of that sword in Balthazar gold because I figured those would look like tarnished brass once you're up inside it here. Just like that. Yeah, that's gonna look pretty good. Pretty good in there. Now I'm going to go over them with all the metal parts are going to get Basilicanum Gray, and the bone parts are going to get Skeleton Horde, obviously. Once the contrast paint's dry, then the metal parts are also going to get coating of Typhus Corrosion, and when that dries, paint over with a little Rise of Rust. It's not going to be terribly obvious, it's not going to stand out a lot, but when you look at the cube, you'll be able to tell, oh, this is tarnished dissolving metal inside the thing. And I think this is really going to end up looking really good. I'm pretty happy with how it's coming out. The ink on the inside and the outside of this thing ended up looking a lot better than I thought it would. The ink on the inside is still drying, so it's getting there, but I was able to kind of finger paint it into the corners that I was worried about, the ones where the airbrush wouldn't reach. And for the most part, leaving it down like this got into those corners, so I'm pretty happy with it. So I'm going to go ahead and pause now and do the bone and the metal parts of the inside here, and then we'll come back and take a look at it before I tarnish them with the typhus corrosion and the rise of rust. Alright, I'll see you soon. Bye. Alright, so the contrast paints are done on the bones and the metals and all that kind of thing, and it's going to take them a little while to dry up. One thing I did notice when I went to start doing this stuff, and you can kind of see it on some of these skeletons here and a little bit on the shield, the wet ink on the inside of the cube came off on them when I put the cube down over the top of it, and they got a little more ink on them. I tried to wipe it off with a wet sponge, but it didn't all come off. But that's okay. When the rise of rust, or when the typhus corrosion and the rise of rust are painted on those parts, on the metal parts, and then the rust is painted over them, you won't notice it. You won't notice it on the bones once the cube is over it. It's all just going to look like another shade of green, so it's all good. It's a little minor mistake there. I probably could have handled it by being a little more mindful of what I was doing. But yeah, overall they're looking pretty good. A little more definition in these bones. The Skeleton Horde contrast paint doesn't have a terrible lot of definition to it by itself, so you kind of have to, it's one of the few that doesn't act the way the rest of the contrast paints do. So it's not gonna stain the bone the way you'd like it to. So you may need a couple of coats on there, and hence why I'm going back over this with it again to get, because I really want, especially on the ribs and the spine that are in here, I really want a lot of definition on that. So spine got a little bit of greening on it too. That's alright. The skulls all look good. It's just all these other little generic bones that are kind of hanging out here, not really looking terribly defined. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to let that sit and dry, let those contrast paints dry, and then when I come back, I will apply the typhus corrosion and the rise of rust, and let those dry, and then really just matte sealing and assembling it is all it's going to take. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do matte seal over this part, just matte seal all of this, and then after I put it together, I'm going to use the Tester's dull coat on the outside of it. I don't actually, I'm using the Tester's dull coat because Tester's dull coat isn't actually dull coat. It's kind of a semi-satin almost. It's it comes out glossier than the Army Painter Anti-Shine, but it's not a true gloss coat. And I don't think I've got any gloss coat, or I'd use that. But yeah, so I'm going to let that dry, and then we'll come back and finish up the metal parts and go from there. Alright, see you soon. Bye. Alright, brush monkeys. As you may or may not be able to see, because I can't really turn it around right now, I've got the typhus corrosion and the rise of rust applied to the metal parts here and the shield, and I've got the entire thing, I've got the interior part of it here not gloss coated, matte sealed with the Tester's dull coat, which, as I've said before, isn't really a true dull coat. It's more of a kind of almost satin finish. It's a little more on the satin side than the Army Painter dull coat, obviously. And also up here on the stick, I've got the cube here. I gloss coated it with a brush, so it's going to take a little while for that to dry. You can see there's still some wet parts on the side of it there that are a little icky. When it dries, it'll be very glossy and very very much more transparent than it is, and it's pretty transparent now. But in the meantime, I can't touch it or handle it at all. So it's on the cube through the hole in the bottom here, and then I've got my paint station has these little holes in the end for putting brushes in and keeping them upright. I find it works just as well for putting that in there and holding it up. So I'm going to let the gloss coat dry. I'm going to let the matte seal dry on that, and next time you see this cube, the whole thing is going to be put together and it's going to be done. So yeah, so it's coming along pretty nicely. I'm going to go ahead and pause here and let those finish, and then I will show you the finished product. All right, see you soon. Bye. And there you have it, Brush Monkeys, the finished gelatinous cube. The Nolzur's Marvelous Miniatures gelatinous cube from WizKids. It is all finished, looking all gnarly with all the eaten bodies inside, just visible through that green slime, green jello. That. Like I said, that was going to be a really fast assembly, but it was. I think it's going to turn out really well, and I think it did. I really like how it came out. It's a little bit darker green than it kind of looks on the video monitor, but I like it. I think it really came out good. I'm really happy with that. So I'm going to call this video done, and next week we start in on something really, really cool. I cannot wait for you guys to see this. It is going to be awesome sauce. But I'm not going to tell you what it is now. I'm going to make you wait until next week for it. So I'm going to sign off now. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next week. Bye. Hey Brush Monkeys, Tom from Flying Monkey Studios here. If you like what you see, click like down below. Click the subscribe button if you want to see more and want to be notified when new videos come out. Check out the links in the video description for links to our Patreon page and our Instagram, so you can see all the different ways that you can support me in doing what I do, and get your hands on some of these miniatures that I've painted if you want one of your own. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook if you want to see updates and see when new videos get posted. And I will see you guys next week. Thanks a lot. Bye.